One of the considerations that's really important for us to properly understand is how much pre-planning can we do. Now, when we go and talk to the customer, they may be absolutely clear about what goal they have in mind. They may have the power within the organisation to make that happen, and maybe they don't. Maybe they're less clear about what they want, or maybe the politics of the organisation is going to make what they want unstable. Also, when we then talk to the project team, they may be completely experienced and fully skillful in producing what the customer wants, or they might be less skillful and have more uncertainties about what the customer wants. So we have two axes of certainty or uncertainty, one in the customer target and one in the team technical capability. Now, when both customer target and team capability are stable and certain, we can pre-plan a long way into the future, like looking down a straight road on a sunny day. We can see well into the future with a high degree of certainty, and so pre-planning is reasonable. But there are situations where what the customer wants is clear, but how to deliver it is beyond the project team's capabilities. And we have to then start to approach things using ideas such as prototyping and experimenting. Well, if you're going to prototype and experiment, you can't predict a long way into the future. You need plans with short time horizons, and those plans need to be constantly revised for what we discover either works or doesn't work. However, as we experiment, we should move down towards the bottom left-hand corner of the diagram that's on the screen at the moment. The same can happen in the opposite or in the other axes. The customer's endpoint might be very volatile. These sorts of things very frequently occur in high technology consumer-led marketplaces because the competition are constantly trying to innovate and the customer is often very interested in buying at the edge of what's possible. So there are two different dimensions here, both of which are going to dictate whether or not it's sensible to pre-plan a long way in advance. There is only one circumstance under which it's possible and sensible to pre-plan well into the future, and that's a powerful sponsor who has a clear view of what they want that is totally within the capability of the project team. When that's not the case, what we need to be doing is setting out a vision of the future, giving the project team much more freedom to determine how to achieve, or the sponsor to change the view of what they want. And so that means plan on much shorter time frames with a much higher degree of reactiveness on the basis of control and respond. There is another element to this picture, which is the situation in the top corner, and I'm not going to go into that one in this conversation, other than to say that what we do in here is we use principles and policy and a suck it and see approach, or a highly reactive and adaptive approach. So there's a team access and there's a customer access, and this takes us across the spectrum of different ways in which we can manage activity, from highly proceduralized, such as occurs in production lines, where we can pre-plan, pre-state everything that will happen, and we can pursue efficiency and optimization. And as we move into more bespoke, more tailored, more amendable specifications of what's required, so we move into effectiveness over efficiency. We reduce the amount of forward planning that it's safe and sensible to do, and increase the amount of risk management and control, or responsiveness and reactiveness, that's required. And that continues as we move through increasingly complex environments, or complicated environments, until eventually we do actually arrive in the complex environment where we need expertise that is capable of observing the patterns that are going on and responding appropriately. So there's a continuum, and we should expect in every project There are some things we can plan well into the future, and there are some things that we can't. And when we can't plan well into the future, then what we should be doing is planning a little way into the future, monitoring closely, and having the fast feedback loop that means we can be highly reactive. So don't plan further into the future than it is possible to predict reasonably, but make sure you have the control capabilities, which includes having, for example, the senior leadership on notice that as we discover things, we will have to come to you and ask you for guidance on what is an acceptable level of risk and an acceptable use of resources and an acceptable tracking or pivoting or changing of approach. Because the alternative is that you delegate all that authority, all of that right to make decisions into the project team. And if as a senior leader you're confident and capable and happy to delegate everything into the project team, then we will make the decisions. If you're not happy to do that, then you need to be available, boss, to make the decisions when I bring them to you. So that's the choice of life cycle. Can we be highly predictive or must we be highly adaptive?